Computer. Lights.
Morning, everybody, and happy Thursday. It's George. Everybody's been talking about how we haven't seen George in a while, so I got George. And he actually was attempting to do damage to things, so here he is now with me. Yeah, nice. Aren't you a nice kitty? He's like, no, I'm really not. I wanted to do destruction, and I got stopped from doing destruction. And that's the way this went. I think that's Jane testing things out, but there's no way to stop it. Oh, I guess I can push the big stop button. There we go. Good morning, Brent. George was being a pest this morning, so he got held for a bit. Although I put him down, and he went immediately back to where he could be a pest. So I was looking for my cable ties, cable management, because I actually have my visible man all put back together again, sort of. But he needs some love and care, and it's been 40 years, so some work needs to be done to this poor guy before I can put him all back together again. Like, I'm noticing that his femur is in two pieces, like it has come apart. The glue has come apart, and his tibia is in here, but it'll need to be glued back onto the knee. And I'm noticing, little things like the bladder has come loose. Poor guy. But when you're 40, what do you expect, right? So apparently, looking that up online, because I have literally every piece of that model except for the small intestines, which are missing. And some part of my memory remembers having the small intestines and thinking, this is the last piece of Max that I have. Max was my favorite model, and all I've got left is the small intestine. So apparently, what happened, I mean, obviously, what the story behind Max here is that we found him in this shoebox in my dad's storage unit after my dad had passed. So we'll never know why my dad had him. But my dad painted that model up for me when I was 8 years old. The model came out in 1977, and I think just remembering back, I know my dad worked on it when we were living in Aurora, and we lived in Aurora from 76 through 79. So this must have been something he did. So that this must have been a brand new kit when he bought it, or really close to brand new. So I was looking up on the Revell website, and apparently you can ask them for replacement parts. You may not get them, but you can ask them for replacement parts, and they will sometimes send them. The problem is that kit has been discontinued since 1988 or 89. So we'll have to see. There may not be replacement parts. So I thought I'd just print a new piece, but then the drawback to that, of course, is that we'll have to find the STL file for it, because it's like a puzzle in there. All the pieces fit really nicely together, and so we can't just go get any small intestines and throw it in there. We're going to have to actually find the piece that actually fits in there. So that's kind of a thing. So that's my morning thing this morning. I was looking for cable management ties because those are great for what I'm looking for to put him together, because these two pieces of a shell that come apart like this. And so my thought was, if I got a cable management tie, I could put it around his waist, and then I wouldn't have to worry about damaging the model, because it's just Velcro, so it just Velcros in. But I can't find them. I had an entire roll of these guys, and they went somewhere because I cleaned my office, and now I can't find anything. Oh, well. Not worth it, really. Let's get to work. I mean, it is worth it, but it's not worth to do it online. Yep, once Tormund gets up onto the countertops there, Brent, that's it. It's like the 2-year-old when they start walking. You're doomed now, because Tormund's going to just be up on the counters all the time. That's where George is a lot of the time, on counters or things like that. Okay, so I've cleaned my monitor, and I'm going to clean my work surface here too while we're at it. Take a brush and kind of work the work surface here. Little bits of dust and whatever ended up on my work surface. So we'll put that back down there. All right. So I finished up my deck plans and finalized them so that we can use them to build sets, which is what we're really after today. So let's get ourselves some music, though. All right. So we got ourselves the, I'm going to call this the final set, because I like this set a lot. I think we're good. I think the only thing I can think of that we'll mess with is when we actually get into a set and find out that things don't fit right. For example, up here in the pilot house, which is an area we're going to be working on today, I was looking at just the nature of these things and knowing that there is a seat here and a seat right here. And yep, I'm going to do that. But we need the set. we can't do it without a set, unless we were just to have them standing in a field somewhere. So we're going to do that. I actually think it should be 8 pages, though, because comic books are printed in groups of 4. So if we did a 6-page thing, we'd have to add 2 pages that were, advertisements or something goofy and stupid, and that seems ridiculous. So the one thing that I did do last night while playing Borderlands with my buddies was I made an org chart. Look at that. Look at our org chart. This actually helps me a lot because we now know what color people wear, right? Green being mission specialist, purple being operations, the light blue being medical, which is really just white, and the dark blue being command, and then of course Marines have a dark green. Yeah, an ad for springs or commissions or something. So there are about 6 short stories that I wrote. So it's not like we don't have a shortage, or we have a shortage of these short stories. I just don't think that, first of all, I don't want to censor is silly. I feel like it's silly to censor my skills or censor my artwork. I think that's silly. It also goes against what I believe as an artist. And so it's kind of weird. Anyway. Or, I mean, really, honestly, I could do a 6-page comic, and on the 7th page, put the deck plans here, and then star maps and stuff. I mean, goodness knows we have a lot of things we could do here. So anyway, okay, so here's my org chart of the ship, which I did, and staff officers, and then their departments underneath it. Because the ship only has 48 people on board, 48, what is it? 48 people. It's not like there's a ton of people in these 30 some odd departments, you know. Hang on real quick. I'm just making sure. Okay. The call. I'm in my broadcast at the moment. This is my stepmom who sometimes forgets that I do stuff. So I'll get back to you at 12 p.m. your time. There we go. All right. It is a good way to show their skills. And like we did say, we've put a lot of effort into things like star maps and things like that. So that might be something we could put on those other pages. Anyway, so in-space officer is Mayrel. Our chief medical officer is Tom. Our weapons officer is Bennett. The commanding officer is yeah. That might not be a bad idea. And then on the back cover, do something about I also do springs, or I don't know, something. We'd have to have a spot for things, I believe. So, but yes. All right. Ship security is held by the Marines. The Marine officer, of course, is Arbo. Our executive officer is... I've forgotten his name, but he is Shakrana. And then I made things like I went on ahead and thought about some of the other people. The engineering officer. I've been trying to decide whether engineering officer or supply officer is where Navin is, the AI. And I think probably supply officer is better. Because of two things. One, it would be an obvious choice to make Navin the engineering officer. And I don't like necessarily going for obvious choices. So anyway, so that's a thought. That's a thought there, is to make him the S2, and then that he just happens to also be in communication with the ship as an AI. But since he's an AI, he can travel and do his stuff. But as an S2, he also wouldn't be required to be on duty when the ship is in transit, right? Which is kind of important. I think that'd be good because in transit, AIs can't work. Right. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. Okay. You know, another thing we could do. We could do an 8-page tech manual. Like everything's already kind of here. And if we did just a short 8-page tech manual, that could be done by tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like sent off to the printer tomorrow. Because we finished the characters. In fact, we could probably put a 16-page tech manual together, right? Yeah. I'm liking this idea. Let's talk about an 8-page or an 8-page or a 16-page tech manual. Right? Let's take a look at a couple of things first. Like, for example, because Heidi Young, who is a local artist and a buddy of mine, she printed a book through through someplace, and I'm about to go. I'm looking it up because she messaged me, and she messaged me the information. Mixam, Mixam, Mixam.com. Let's take a look at them and see what we've got going on here. Yeah, I think you may be right. I think you're not wrong. Comic books. Click. The question is, what do they do? If we have less than 100, can we do less than 100? Whoa, can we do 50? 50, it'd be color, portrait, and we could do 8 sides, which puts 16 pages together, right? Huh. And $64, right? That's 50 of them. That's not bad. Let's take a look over at and see what Superior POD has. Superior POD can do smaller runs. Sometimes they just have saddle stitched. Let's do these. Let's do 16 pages. Right, so if we did 50, let's look at this in competition. Yeah, so if we do short runs, Superior POD is better. If we're going to do like 10. You're right. So I could probably put 50 of those tech books, print 50 of those tech books, and it'd be fine. So Yeah, I think so too. Well, but looking at a competition price here of $147.95 versus $64, I mean, I can't beat that. You know what I mean? Can't beat 64 bucks. But here's the thing. If we print these things, yeah, have like 5 or 10 at the table at any given point in time. Agreed. Agreed. And I mean, the tech manuals might be really kind of cool, right? And if we do 50 of them at 64 bucks, I mean, 64 divided by 50, that's $1.28 a piece. Not a bad price. Because it's 60 at 50 of those guys, I could roll. I'm just curious. How does that change it? Man, it's 11 bucks or 1.1, $1.16 a piece. Well, and that's the thing, right? I could sell it for like $3. And $3 is not that expensive. It's not that expensive at all, and I'd still make a profit off of it. And the tech book is maybe 5, right? Short books, make it, and then I can make deals like you buy the tech book and the little intro. Yeah, 5's not bad, right? $5 a book's not bad. You make a little intro on it. Yeah, see, this is a good. Thank you, Heidi, if you're listening, because you're probably not, because really, I bumped you really hard yesterday, didn't I? Didn't mean to bump you. Here we go. I don't think that's level. I'm going to switch back to the main camera so that I can see what's going on here, because I don't think that's level at all. Hope you guys aren't getting seasick back there. There we go. All right. Speaking of things that should be taped down, my camera should be taped down because it's only up there with, again, cable management ties. I love cable management ties. Yeah, but I mean, we could do. There are a number of things that we could do in the tech manual, right? Let's go get a book. Something to write it. Right? So, if we did a tech manual, I'm going to write this down. Tech manual. I could write this down here. I could write this down on screen. And you guys could see it too. Wouldn't that be an amazing thing? Put you down for a tech manual? Okay. Just do a normal page, but this time we'll do it at 300 dpi because I don't. Why do I do this to myself? Rotate flip canvas 90 degrees. It doesn't really matter which wise we go. All right. So let's us do the talking about the teching. All right, we gotta. What are you doing? Oh, copy stamp undo. I don't want copy stamp. I want you. Tech pen's good. I like my tech pen. Okay. Okay, tech manual. It's a 16-page thing. And page 1's probably an intro, right? We're going to need something. Right? Well, that's my... Yeah, you've been here for all of this. I mean, You understand that all of these books you get at like cost because it's you've already seen the how we make the sausage, so it's kind of unfair to say pay me $5 because it's expensive to do these. But B, of all the people who are like the most dedicated supporters here, yes, maps. So two. The problem is that the maps are not. I've got a zillion maps. Well, 2 and 3, because we could do a lot of maps. You know, the world of placement be 2 and 3, right? Bio break. So what size do we decide? What size do we decide this to be? 6.69 by 10.2. You know what? I'm just going to stick this up here because I'm going to type it in wrong. And it's going to be, so height is 10.24. And width is 6.69. This is comic book page. I'm going to do 600 dpi on it. There we go. So this is our standard comic book page. And what we'll do is I'm just going to go on ahead and start building all the pages out of this. There's no reason not to. Because I can go find the resources at this point in time. So let's take a look at all of our resources. Because here are all of our maps. And these are all the maps that need to, like, pieces, parts. I don't know. Some of this stuff is outdated, and that's part of the problem. Right? We need to go up to galaxy level too. Because I don't think, I mean, I've got this guy. I feel like we should start with, you know, space is big, really big. The other really good thing about putting together these things, nice. Huge. You don't need to be selected. It's okay. Thank you. And then here's our local. Because if I were to turn off this and this, I'd get just these guys, which maybe is what I want. Like, where is the larger version of this map? Where's the galactic version of this? This is another one of those listed under nobody knows exactly how big these things are until you, or how big like our galaxy is, until you start seeing it at this range. Because I know I've got a galactic master. Master Galactic. There we go. That's the Master Galactic on this. I like what you're thinking. No, and I can't even imagine what the captions are thinking. Oh, wait. Boogity, boogity, boogity. Now I want to know what it said. Because it auto-generates the captions. And so I'm horribly curious what it says about things. I know it mangles things like Mayrel and, mangles those really good. Especially the weirder names. So I'm not opposed. I love the idea of what you're saying. I'm trying to think of how to implement it, but I love the idea of it. Because you're right. It'd be cooler if it was, So let me show you something. We have in the ideas here, in my ideas section, I have something I've been kind of wanting to move towards, which is this guy. So this is your standard approach into Zurich Airport, right? It's spelled wrong, but it's not that bad. I mean, Mayrell is not as bad as I expected it to be. So I've kind of loved this sort of style, right? Like it's got 1 inch equals 7.5 nautical miles. So the map is, accurate. And then you've got this briefing up here, which tells you a whole bunch of things that make sense in airplane language, right? Like what's the apron, the ground, the tower, all of these things tell you all of this. But if you think about the way that we work in our universe, once they're in space, the PCs won't work, right? So they have to have a physical piece of paper. What does the physical piece of paper look like? And I think you're right. If we did that, it could prove to be very fascinating to the map sort of concepts, right? Yeah, because like down here is the arrival degrees and stuff like that, and the wave off if you have to, and then your approach on the runway. This is kind of cool. I mean, all you really have to do is set your autopilot with this stuff. I mean, this knows exactly what to do once you're on glide approach. If you start at 4,000 feet for approach, then and you set your glide approach right here, then you should just line right up with the runway and runway 28 and then just drop right in. So, I mean, this is kind of cool. Kind of want to do something like this, where we've got sort of, it looks like a technical approach to a system, right? We have talk about things in the illustrations directory. We have like this guy, right? They'd probably use some kind of stronger material. And it would probably be not in the same manner of things, I guess. When you get to the point where you're at light seconds in, like 12 light seconds in, you can go half the speed of light and it'll still take 24 seconds. So at 12 light seconds, we can go markedly slower. So there comes a point where it's okay because it takes an hour to get into the system at speed and you can crawl drive without a lot of distortion. Where would, because I mean, like 0.25 light speed would be, I wonder if there's a distortion. Time dilation calculator. There's a special relativity calculator. That's funny. So huh, would have thought that would be much more significant. I mean, I'm glad it's not, but I would have thought that would have been more significant. So it's 66% the speed of light. 1 second passes at 1.34 seconds. So not horrible. You're not burning time. So one of the things, I don't know if we've talked about this before, Ghost Hand and Brent, we've talked about budget, that there's time budgets. And that's one of the things the executive officer has to do is discuss the time budgets of the crew. So as long as you're traveling in space, it's not a problem, but in space is markedly more dangerous than real space. Once you're in real space, you have to travel at relativistic speeds. At that point in time, you're burning your crew's budget. They can only stay in service for 5 years real time. And so once you start burning budget on it, like if we drop out of system or drop into the system, but we're still like, let's say 5 light days away, then you're going to burn a ton of budget getting up to that location. We're going to burn like 5 or 6 weeks to cross that time. So you want to drop out of in space and then want to drop out of in space close to a body. But the closer you are to a body, the more the gravitational walls start showing up, as per this piece here. We see these. This is where the event horizons, the Schwarzschild radiuses start dropping out. So the radiuses expand the faster you go in space. So if you've got, in other words, stars become black holes, planets become black holes in space. So every star has a Schwarzschild radius. Like our star has a Schwarzschild radius, and that's the spot where light can't escape anymore, right? And that even our star has one. It's just that it happens to be 3 kilometers wide, and it's at the dead center of our star, right? Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what happens. You've got your crew and they have exactly how much budget they've got left. And before you ship out, you check your crew's budgets to make sure that you've got an estimated amount of time that they can all do their stuff and, things like that. So like, is it good enough for, oh, well, Ghost Hand still got a year's worth of budget left, but Brent's only got about 3 weeks left. So, depending on our we've only got it's a 5-day trip, but since Brent is cycling out in 3 weeks, we may want to drop him off at the station now and replace him on the ship, because you don't know. We may drop into a system and be too far away, and there's, X number of days budget that we have to plan on our trips, that something might go wrong and we might chew up all of our budget, and then Brent would go overtime. And we have to pay him a lot if he goes overtime. And, this is the Army. We don't do that. It's the Navy. We don't do that either. So that's my thought. But more importantly, I feel like, yeah. Well, and that's the thing. That's the difference between the restricted duty officers and the line officers. The line officers, at some point in time, they sign away their whole budget, right? And it's all good. Because when you're doing relativistic travel, let's say we drop into Moment, the system Moment. We drop into Moment, but we're 15 light days away. We're going to push the engines up to 0.9 the speed of light, and for our ship, we're going to be there in about an hour, right? But in real time, we still spent 6 days, 7 days in travel, right? So even though for you and me it was 1 hour, you still burned 7 days of your budget out. And that's the reason why you'd have a budget, because it's really easy to sit there in your mind and think, all I did was just, it was 2 hours. I'm willing to stay longer. But the rest of the world, like your family and your friends, you just vanished for 7 days. So the budget's more because humans and all life forms are going to have a hard time thinking, I've only been in for 1 year. Why am I being cycled out? And it's because your ship kept running in real time for 5 times that in real life. So you've burned all of your budget and you're now out 5 years. So, it's easy to tell because, Ghost Hand, you joined us, last year. So you've got a 5-year budget. You're with us until 2026, right? So whatever is our real-time time when we drop out, if we're at January 20th of 2026, I'm sorry, Ghost Hand, you're cycled out, even though to you and me, it's only been 1 year. You've only been on board for 1 year. Well, and I love I love exploring this. I love really talking and getting into it, because I feel like that's a human factor. That's going to be a real human factor. Ghost Hand, you've got a family that's going to miss you. And you're like, but I want to stay in. I've done we've only been doing this for 1 year and I love it. Well, that's great. But your family's going to miss you. And so we have to cycle you out for that benefit. So that's what I think to me, that sounds like such an amazing discussion to have, So anyway, it's a thought. It's not a thought. I'm going to do this. So, okay. Let's do a couple of things here. First things first, let's invert this. Because if we invert it, we'll be able to see it easier. Right? And then we'll hit here. Yeah. Well, and there's another one of our discussions, right? You can't send an AI to do a 10-year mission, because they fought for independence. And since they fought for independence, you have to treat them like any other sentient being, which is going to be another one of those, we have to deal with the AIs. People are going to get annoyed because it's like, we could use an AI to send to this place, and you'd be right, and it'd be great, but then you'd waste the AI's life, and you can't do that. I find that also intriguing because now you've got this sort of, not battle per se, but concept that you have to deal with there. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You can transfer to what they call lifers, and lifers don't do the 5-year thing. But there's a rule that you must check back in every 5 years. So you can't just go out for 5 years on a 5-year mission and then come back and say, well, like you're out there and the captain's like, we've got to burn some extra time, and I'm sorry, Ghost Hand, but that's going to put you about 1 month over budget. And you're like, that's all right, I'm enjoying this, so I will re-up. They don't do that intentionally because they know people will abuse it, so they won't do that. Okay, we're going to do some, because realistically, they would. People would. They don't mean to. Nobody wants to be like that person, but they will be. How about there? Nope. That's what I want. I'm going to hit this curve right here. I think I want that to be thicker. Because we all know that's what will happen. I'm just going to go on ahead and do a trace on this real quick, so that we can have a nice black and white version of this that's all clean. So it'll look like those Jefferson reports that we had up. This guy here, very clean lines and stuff like that. Yeah, you could sign up for your life. You could be a lifer and effectively just be there forever. And that's fine. Nobody's going to question you for that. That is absolutely acceptable. So if you were to sign up, you don't have any family, you don't have any friends. In fact, that is exactly what Chang has done. She's signed up as a lifer because she doesn't have her daughter anymore, and her husband left her. So she's got no one to stick around for her. Her parents are dead, and she hates her sisters. So that's exactly what Chang has done. She doesn't care. It's not critical or important to her. So she doesn't. And that's part of sort of our story, is that she's kind of made the Kittiwake her family. Makes some sense. Right. But that's a flaw in the character that she should address. You want me to do 2 books then, you're saying? You're recommending? Yeah, I like the idea of a small 6 to 8 page story too. I'm not against that. I'm just thinking that we definitely can do a tech manual. At some point here, we can do easily a tech manual. So, alrighty. We're just drawing in the donut here because this will be our base design for all. We've got to have this chart for the comic too anyway, so our little Jefferson chart. 3, 1 tech manual, 2 6 to 8 page book, and 3 maybe a star map or tourist guide brochure. I mean, it's not like we can't do something like that. I mean, certainly I'm not opposed. There we go. We'll just do this. I mean, like some of the things we were talking about, I was just thinking about this with when we talk about, for example, talk about the org chart over here. Under the in-space officer, we've got gravitics, right? Which is entirely this navigation function, like literally trying to suss out how a star decides to or doesn't decide to chew up your ship, you know, and it's like that's what gravitics is all about. And so we could do a lot of this stuff as, you know, welcome to Unity Gravitics 101. You know, it's like, you know, so you want to be a gravitics officer. It's a very exciting job with lots of interesting work to do, you know, sort of thing. We could kind of dress it up as sort of, you know, this is how gravitics works. Don't let your ship get into a eddy. Things go bad there. You know, you could do all kinds of cool stuff. So, I mean, gravitics sounds like an interesting we could do all kinds of stuff on that one. So I'm not opposed to the idea of some kind of, you know what? Let's talk about this because actually thinking about this now, we've got something we can kind of work off of, right? Because Franz Joseph put together the coolest tech manual ever, right? I mean, like, this is core to some of the stuff that anything I've ever really wanted to do in life came from this tech manual, right? And he's got things like the Articles of the Federation in here and, you know, different logos and icons from different cultures, flags, and things like that. But he also has in here, you know, the various starships and what ranks mean and things like that, and uniforms, just like we were talking about, you know, and starships and how starships all look, you know what I mean, and like their propulsion and things like that. So we could use this as sort of, I mean, not obviously this big, but something similar to it. What I think is funny is when he shows, people don't get the scale of our galaxy. They really just don't, right? Because like here is his picture of the galaxy with this being the Federation, that size right there, from the Sagittarius arm all the way out to the outer side of the Perseus arm. And then here is a close-up of that with all the stars in it. And it's like, yeah, I don't think you have quite the scale, right? So, but I've got 3 different maps here. Yeah, people don't understand. It's still one of my favorite quotes from Douglas Adams. Space is big, really big, amazingly big. People don't really appreciate how big space is. I don't even remember how that goes, but we can always look it up. This is my really beloved copy of Hitchhikers, and you can see it's in really interesting shape. And this was says here, it says, given to Guy Stephen Davis on his birthday, from one crazy to another, love, Dad. So my dad gave this to me, and it's one of my favorite books ever. Right? And somewhere, this is the story of that terrible, horrible Thursday. Best book ever. Best book ever. People don't. Yep, it's a Stephen. My family is Stevens, which is one of the reasons why I don't use my middle name or my mother's maiden name for any password ever. Because, of course, it's in my professional title and it doesn't take a whole lot to find it. So, anyway, back to work for us. So I'm liking where we are on this. Why did you do only half of it, you goober? So I like what our concepts are here. But I also think that this is a good idea to do all of this. So you guys have all heard the story about why I go by G.S. Davis and not by Guy Davis, right? I know I tell that story every so often because it's a particularly irritating story. The TLDR on it is there are already a number of Guy Davises out there. And so I see, this is why I wanted to kind of go through here. There are a number of Guy Davises out there, not the least of which is another comic artist who actually works for Image, whose name is Guy Davis. So, or I don't know whether he's Image or Marvel, but he works for one of the big companies. It might be DC. Oh, tell me more. Tell me more. DTTTTT. Tell me more. Tell me more. DTTTTT. Shibby bap. Shibby bap. Shibby bap. Shibby. Anyway. Wonder if I can just kind of, because this guy should probably be more like this. There we go. And then we'll go through and clean that up because I'm noticing how unclean that was. Unclean. So yeah, there's already a Guy Davis comic artist, and it actually was sad when I met Ron Fortier once. The first time I met Ron, I was introduced as Guy Davis, and I'm a comic artist, and Guy Davis, the comic artist. And Ron said, "I've seen your work. It's wonderful, and I love what you do." And I was like, "You haven't seen my work, though I appreciate it." And had to explain to him that I was not, in fact, that Guy Davis. I was a different Guy Davis. And it was so sad. I was like, I'm not that Guy Davis. I'm another Guy Davis. So it became sort of a thing. Also, one of the things that every artist has a hill that they die on. And my hill that I will die on is the mistreatment of women in society. And that's my hill. I am what you would call a very avid feminist. And I'm cautious to say that now because I know that Joss Whedon's sort of in trouble for doing stupid crap about that now. And so I'm kind of a little cautious on that. However, it is true. My mom was she had to suffer kind of all kinds of stuff from being a woman in the modern culture. And so that's my kind of hill to die on. And I like the fact that people can't identify my gender when it's GS. They make no preconceptions as to whether I'm male or female or what color because I mean guy is pretty obvious. Can't really miss it on that one, right? Mm, not ecstatic about this. I feel like it's not going to make that connection there. But let's go on ahead and bring it through that point. This was not the most precise drawing when I made the original on this. So we're going to take from here and go through that point there. Yeah, see, gosh, can't even get it to line up. Yuck. Yick. Yep, sarcasm, folks. So, one of the things I do like about GS is it does not imply my gender. So you can't guess and say, "Oh, good, it's a guy." So you're obviously better at this job than this woman over here, or whatever, which would be one of those things that irritates the hell out of me. So, okay, we're going to go from here to this point here, and I'm going to draw it down like so. And that is absolutely a hill I die on. And there we go. Space, you find a frontier. Question is, let's make sure it's going up and down correctly now, because now I'm not 100% sure. I guess it can go there and that'd be fine. Gorgeous, unbelievable yodeling. It's an acronym. Okay. I don't yodel very well though. And hello, Donald, and welcome to the show. And with the yodeling is Donald. I love you, man. Speaking of Donald, though, I might pick your brain on my org chart here in a minute because we org charted earlier today or last night, I guess, really. Spock could yodel. Makes it a spodal. Spiodal. Ooh, that's starting to sound bad already. Ooh. Okay. I'm moving the star down to this point here. That's what we're going to call that. Primary point. Right, and that's where the star is. And now when we look at this map, it's much more donutty. Donutty? I think I'm funny. Donut-like? Donut-esque? We've got donuts here. I don't know. I'm just working this one. Leonard definitely could sing. No question. So, okay. We're going to need to do the back side of this guy. So let's first get these crosses in here, because we know it's going back to there. There. And I feel kind of like it'll be burned into your mind and seared into your mind. And then directly aft would be like right here. Now it's off. So, Donald, we were talking about the idea and concept of making a tech manual to put it into so that I can do a tech manual for to put on the table at conventions. That was the topic discussion this morning, which I think is a great idea. And so part of this is that we need to sort of do our nope. That's not what I want. I gotta start from here. Yeah, see, this is why I think things aren't going the way they should. I think this is a better spot, which I had originally drawn as an orbit. But now I'm kind of looking at this going, it should be connected here. There we go. And this guy is lighter than the back so that we can see through it easier. A tech table. Yes, a tech table. But talking to Brent, I was thinking about this. Brent and Ghost Hand, we've been discussing the idea of something very much like the tech manual from Franz Joseph, right? Who did all of these wonderful illustrations in this tech manual 100 million years ago, but pretty much shows like all the pieces of things. I could put this together before the week's out, right? I mean, even if we were to just simply do this, like this here, we could easily do stuff. And it'd be easy. Not sure what that means. Different text is needed. That's why I have battery controlled LEDs. So that I can be at the table and still have lights that blink. Because really, honestly, this is so me that it's just like silly, right? It's silly to think that's such a me thing to do. Have lights that just it's just like a thing, and it looks so nice, and it's so calming. It like calms my soul, my very soul. Every fiber of my being is calm because of that. Isn't it beautiful? Okay. So the one thing I am noticing, though, is if we take this and assume that it's a circle, it's not, right? So let's take an ellipse and go like across the bow of this thing here. Let's not do that. Do it starting from here, maybe? And going there, because this is probably much more accurate as to what this should look like. Looks like a block of cheese. So it's a torus. One of the things that is interesting about stars is that the rotational spin of the star causes a gravity torus on outside of it called the ergosphere. And this is it's not circular. It's not it's not a sphere around it. And the more significant the spin of the star, the more dramatic that ergosphere becomes. But when you're in space, gravity footprints increase and become more dramatic. And it's like you take the dial and dial it up to 15. So if your star's ergosphere looks just a little bit like this normally, by the time you get to 0.3 in speed, your ergosphere looks like a torus with a defined dip in the center, which is what this is illustrating, is a 0.3 approach into this system where you have to pass the ergosphere to get in to make the arrival point, right? Because, of course, like we were just talking about earlier, we're talking about balancing how much real space, real time you want to burn by just crawling along a system. The systems are big, right? So it's kind of like you have to decide, where do you want to park your car, right? If you're driving to a big park, right, and the party is in the center of the big park, you can't drive your car up across the grass and to the thing. So you're going to have to park in a parking lot and walk to the pagoda in the center. So you want to plan your trip, and if you're thinking like, I'm throwing my party in Central Park of New York, I mean, you've got to plan a lot of time to get there, because you're only going to be able to drive up to the edge of Central Park. Then you're going to have to walk through Central Park to get to the pagoda in the center. And that's the same thing we're doing here. You drive an in space up to a certain point where it's too dangerous to go any further. And then you have to stop your ship, drop out of in space into real space. And then you have to just crawl along. The best part is, for the ship, doesn't matter at all, because the ship will accelerate up to 0.75 light speed, and you'll be there inside the next 10 minutes, right? But it's still going to take 5 days. So 10 minutes at 0.75 light speed, it's going to be 1.3 minutes, 1.5 minutes. So it's going to be twice up. So it's going to take 15 minutes in real time, which isn't horrible. So 10 light minutes out is not a big deal, but you're not going to cross 10 light minutes in 10 minutes. So I'll have to there's going to be some math involved here. I'm going to do that math offline. In the meantime, we're going to clean up these lines, because these lines are not straight. Look at that. None of these lines are straight. In fact, I'm somewhat annoyed by how little these lines are lined up. Okay. So, I'm going to take our curve and go back down here. Delete this guy right here, all the way up to about there. I'll take these guys out too. And this guy's not going to be lined up anymore to there. In fact, we may be moving that star piece. I always like things like Star Wars, which, introduced weird phenomenon in space, like 0.5 past light speed. Because, like, recently somebody put a meme up where Patrick Stewart, where they have, Picard go, so warp 1.5. Right, making sure that the only people who are chatting with me are, I'm getting guess our garage door. Oh, our garage door just closed. Because my wife forgot to close it, that's why. I'm getting notifications for. Is everything okay? Everything's fine, right? You're not dying? Please don't die. I am remarkably fond of you there. My dear friend, please don't die. So. Anyway, I was simply commenting that the Millennium Falcon could do warp 1.5. Yeah. Because they just wanted to throw words in there to make it sound cool. And the words that they chose are not really thought out. The other thing that's cool about having a tech manual is that I will be able to stay consistent in my universe. Good. Good. Nobody wants death. Death is bad. It's the first rule of this household, no dying. So, it's actually one of my more adorable moments with my child when he was very young. I was like, what's the first rule? And he goes, first rule, no dying. Very adorable. There once was a time when he was adorable. Now he's 11. Adorable is quite a ways away now. So, I'm going to go here through the cheese point and out to here. So, the idea that we had, so the idea that Brent and Ghost Hand and I have been working on all morning is the idea of doing a tech manual and releasing it. Because I've got a table at the end of March, and I've got another table at the beginning of April. And I already purchased the tickets, so I already have the tables. They're not going anywhere. So I've been trying to figure out, how am I going to deal with this? What am I going to do? Because I don't have a table yet. I don't have a plan. And what the guys and I have been coming up with here is we're going to do a tech manual. And I think that's a great idea. That'll allow me to get something going here, which works very well. I've been meaning to clean this up for a long ass time. So this will allow me to get something kind of moving on this that will be good for me at some point, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, this is screwed up too. It's weird envelope thing. Although it will be pear-shaped because of the nature of things. So we should probably take the curve and go from here to here. Right? Yeah. See, that's not bad. It's not bad. It's not bad. Okay. But anyway, a tech manual is a brilliant idea because it means that I can, oh, that's interesting. Puts its apex in an interesting spot. Not quite lined up with where we are, oddly. Well, let's go ahead and discuss this as a line to right here and see if that can connect better. Yeah, I can connect better that way. Anyway, so we're going to do a tech manual, which is what we're doing right now. This is going to ultimately be yes and no. I mean, I'm actually trying to make this, but I'm trying to make this in a way that oh yeah, man, spasms suck. I was worried about you because you had said you had a real problem with your back. And you were worrying me for a minute there because I'd seen that on Facebook. I'm glad, though, that the spasms are gone. I know you're giving me a hard time. And I'm giving you a hard time because next we're going to do star maps. I'm just kidding. I will be doing star maps, just not online. Well, okay, not online, not because of any other reason other than that's what I'm thinking too, is like a cadet manual. Welcome to the Unity, guys, you know, and the Confederation. And so it's like, here's a Confederation, which I think we don't call it Confederation now. We call it, there's a better word for it that starts with C. Because you end up with a Confederate manual and just has sort of a bad taste to it. But Commonwealth, the Commonwealth, that's the bad guys in my story. They're the ones that are problem children to everybody. There. Anyway, so if we do this sort of like the Jefferson Maps, right? That's this guy here. That's a Jefferson Map. So Jefferson was the guy who pretty much organized flight in America and kind of got it straightened out so it wasn't just a whole bunch of dudes getting into airplanes and then trying to hit each other in the sky. He kind of standardized a lot of the stuff that ultimately populated around the world. There's now a company called Jefferson, which took over sort of the mantle, and they're the ones that put out standardized maps and try to get everything into. But this is also why, in a weird way, that all air flight is done in English, even though that's probably not the most efficient language. There have been a number of accidents and airplanes that have crashed because people couldn't understand each other. And I have actually had moments where I have listened to air traffic, because I actually like to listen to air traffic when I'm flying in an airplane. So it's one of those things. So okay. Because I think this would be your standardized approach vector picture. I also feel like we should do like the remaining sort of bumps kind of going up here. That's a line. There we go. That's not what we wanted to do. In fact, I think we could just connect right here and just kind of get this concept. There, like so. That shows you sort of where that's headed. Out that way. I'm not liking that. Because it shouldn't be dimpled in the center. So this guy's going to have to come back. I mean, it can be tilted, but when it gets into the center section here, it's going to have to, because we need it to look like this on the cross section. I could do this the easy way, or I could do it the hard way. What is it with me doing these things the hard way? This doesn't have to be hard. This could be easy. But instead, it's hard. It's 10:35. Let's do this the easy way. I'm going to sit down. We're going to do this the easy way, guys. Because the truth is, we should make different kinds of maps for different systems. And the way that I'm doing this map, by hard drawing it like this, is going to take months to do different maps, and I'll just be driving Brent crazy. Right? Because that's what happens. So let's do this. We'll go by a width of, let's go by a width of 20.
You have an incoming call from the
Well, she's going to have to wait.
You have an
because she's calling at 10:36, and I'm not out until 11. So 5. No, let's do 10. Right? I knew we don't need to be that. Well, no, let's do it 600 dpi. Okay. The trick behind these tori is that they are the trick behind the tori is that I'm not really bothering you. I know I'm not bothering you. It's the same thing. You're messing with me, I'm messing with you. You mess with me, I mess with you. Right back. Anyway, the trick with these toruses, I totally do. I totally do. And the reason why I'm looking out to the park here is how much of this is critical. Because you're right, I do. But regardless, I know that there is a scene in the first comic where Mayrel pulls out the map, the charts for Moment. So we're gonna have to do this, whether now or later. We're gonna have to do this. We just have to decide whether we're doing this now or not. And I actually think I'm going to do this now to make sure that it's done. Might as well do it right. So, but you're not wrong. And I want you to know I absolutely agree with you and stuff. And things. There. That is the question. We're going to need to do this regardless at some point. This would be so much easier in Photoshop. And I hate Photoshop so much now. Okay. Okay, so looking at our alignment here, we're going to go on ahead and put in a straight line marker. Crap. I don't want to do this in Photoshop, but it'd be so much easier in Photoshop. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a better job. We're going to turn the galactic map off. Go here. We've already done this, so this is a page of maps that we can keep. We'll put the design book. We'll go here. New folder. We'll call this the tech manual. Right? And this is page 2. And temporarily call it page 2 and have it done. And then that way, it's not done, but we at least know where we're headed on this one, right? And then we kind of did that. And then, oh man, don't do that. For the point of Donald, here's my org chart for my ship. I don't know if this is readable for you guys, but my thought here is that if you look at this, you can see the org setup for my ship. Also allows us to tell when we have people on the ship what color are they wearing, what color uniform are they wearing. This is important. So anyway, okay. Let's get back to what we were working on here and then do the horrible thing. I'm going to do a horrible thing, and I'm going to so regret this. Well, let's go. Adobe Photoshop. And it's going to take forever for Photoshop to load. So, mostly because I killed all of the Adobe side runners because they were clogging up my system and making it so hard for me to deal with stuff. So it's going to have to load Adobe Creative Cloud. It's going to have to load all of this stuff, but this will be a lot easier because Adobe Photoshop gives me more precision on this matter. So it's interesting looking at this map, though. Like your approach vectors and everything, and like I love the way the terrain, it shows the physical border between Germany and Switzerland, and shows the actual like alignment of the runways, which shows you where you can come in on and what your approach vectors are. Like this is an outbound vector and this is an inbound vector, which makes me think that when you're entering into Zurich, what they want you to do is come in here, hit this point at the marker, and then turn, hit this point at the marker, and then turn for the approach onto this runway. Right? And this mountain right here is your landmark. And you have to hold at 4,000 feet here because this mountain peak is 2927. You're still 1,000 feet above the mountaintop. But like right here, this is 3,000 feet. Right? It's not a real place. Don't mistake it for Zurich. This is not a real airport. The maps are cool. I mean, right? These maps sort of give you an idea of where things are. Like, somebody is lost. I'm watching them out there drive around in circles. But I find it fascinating to me. Oh, hey, look, Vom.red. All we're getting from YouTube now is just chatter. Weird. Bet you Hal's still out there, though. Hi, Hal. And just in case you're out there. We'll need to have at least one in order for it to be a tech manual. We want, like you guys are all saying, because it all does make sense. Oh, hey, look, Photoshop starting. It's all making sense kind of where you are on this one. Start a new file. We'll need at least one. Just do that. Create. You can see why we have a problem here. I still don't have control over Photoshop. Now I have control over Photoshop. Why'd you bring it into Photoshop, guy? Because guides are awesome. Right? Snap. Snap. Man, a lot of creepy people just creepily creeping. I remember when I was first introduced to Photoshop, and this would be 1997, 98, somewhere in there. I said, what's the point of this? Because it looks to me to be no better than the other paint program I was using, which was not, in fact, MS Paint. And my buddy, you lurk, my buddy Shane, whom I have brought onto Geek Tank before to talk about stuff, my buddy Shane was introducing me into Photoshop, and he said, it's the selection tools. What the hell? Something just exploded off of our roof. Looked like a bunch of paper, which, you know, we've been putting up solar panels. It might actually be somebody may have left the instructions up there or something equally as weird. And he was like, it's selection tools that are the best. And I thought about that and I got into it, and he was right. The selection tools are not, you can't match the selection tools in Photoshop. You can't beat them. You really can't. And so, it's aggravating because I really don't want to be using Photoshop anymore. But I don't have a choice in the matter, really. Right, so because truth is that no matter which way you look at it, Photoshop is still the best program for this job. As far as stuff like this, where I've got to be putting in lines and line work. And yes, this is a little bit tree-y and less foresty. You're not wrong, Brent. But we do need these charts. We need it for Mayrel, so she can look up the chart on Moment. Okay, now we have a basic grid, so we can actually clear guides. Okay, basic grid down. Why did you make a group out of it? It's like dealing with a child, I swear. Duplicate that and actually just put it up here and then do this and then just say, that makes you a full doodly wop there. All right. This puts you up to 0.3 in speed. I'm gonna grab my tech manual and make sure I have my speed stuff set correctly. Looking back a few pages in my tech manual, we have our speed charts. Which I have need to put Aaron. All right. So our speed's set at okay, math people, our speeds are wrong because they're great for realism. They're not really that good for this. So let's talk about the dramatics of this. And this is one of those times where I'm like, oh, crap. So the average density of our galaxy is roughly, give or take, 1 star. Yeah, that's the problem is they're great in real life. They'd be awesome, but it doesn't have the granularness that we need to get into a system. Effectively looking at the speeds of things, we've got 0.0, which is light speed, right? So that's the start point. When you're at in space 0.0, you're at 1 times light speed. And that's 1 light second per second, right? That makes sense. You're 1 to 1. But then I've got 0.1 is at 237.25 light days per second. We've jumped up quite a bit. Needless to say, our solar system, our entire solar system, is only about 150 light days across. So in other words, at 0.1, you can 1 Mississippi. You're just 1 Mississippi. So 1 Mississippi. That's a pretty fast speed. And so you're either moving at a point where you're at a fraction of a second dropout in order to get to Earth, or we need more granularity between 0.0 and 0.1. Which is what I'm trying to think of here, because it's going to have to be exponential. The speed is. because the speed goes to 1 parsec a second, correct? No, 2 parsecs an hour. And maybe that's what I should do is 1 parsec an hour is a good speed. No. Crap. A parsec is 3.2 light years. And so we're talking about 6 light years an hour. And you think about that, that puts us within 1 hour's reach of Alpha Centauri, which is a perfectly appropriate speed. You clear the system, clear Earth, and you clear the system. Well, yes and no. I mean, part of it is just that, you know, when both of those were created, we didn't have a very good resolution on how big the galaxy was. That's why I was kind of chuckling at the resolution that we've got in the tech manual, because he's saying it's, you know, 4,000 parsecs into the center of the galaxy, and it's not. It's a lot farther than that, right? And where we're located is a little bit more accurate now. We have a more accurate view of where we're located. So I mean, it's and I mean, I think that I'm sure that what's going to happen is I will be dated at some point in time too. However, we've gotten a much more accurate view of how big the Milky Way is, and we can tell that from other galaxies like Andromeda, which is our next neighbor, M31, and we can tell that Andromeda is bigger than us as far as a galaxy goes, and then we can also tell about what the size of galaxies are. So we now know pretty accurately where we sit in our galaxy and how far things are, and we're much, much, much better now at telling how far things are, and we know exactly where the black holes at the center of the galaxy are. So we're now much more accurate about where things are relative to us. So I have a little bit more faith in the size of the universe that we're setting up. So if I set my speeds, these speeds should hold for a while. But the reason I'm doing this grid is because we're going to have to do toruses that get weirder and weirder as they get further and further out. We're coming up on the end of the show, so relatively, yeah, relative. You're funny. Relativity. Our relativity should hold just fine. And the math will hold. I just need to get something between 0.0 speed and 0.1 speed. And I may have to readjust my chart. I just don't like, what I'm really having a problem with right now is just, I don't like the unevenness of it. We want to go about 2 parsecs an hour. That's the speed we calculated a while back. That would give us about 30 hours between stars, right? Which is about what we wanted, was the average being 30 hours, you know? And maybe that's the deal. Maybe 1.0 speed is 1 parsec per hour. And it's just set. And if you're doing 2.0, that's 2 parsecs an hour. And that's set. And 3.0 is 3 parsecs an hour. And that's also set. But it wouldn't be, because it's going to have to be mathematical. Oh my God. I hate math. Why? This is the crime that has befallen your dear friend. I am a science fiction writer that loves hard sci-fi, and I can't add 2 and 2 without like extensive scribbles. It's like this is like the horrible crime that has befallen me. Okay, guys, that's it for today. Tomorrow, yeah. Well, yeah, but we're doing 0.01. It's clumsy. I like 0.1 and 0.2 and 0.3 as far as like clarity. Adding a 0 in there adds confusion. And I feel like flight speeds get hard when you're trying to communicate, especially since we're going to be communicating using gravitics, which is why communications, by the way, is a subunit of in space officer, the NSO, because the NSO is in charge of gravitics and communications, which is typically done via gravitics. So that's a connected unit. So we'll have to see. Okay, I'm going to head out. I will see you all tomorrow. It's Friday tomorrow. The weather's not horrible out there right now, is it? It's just -3 Celsius. That's not so bad. And the snow seems to be all gone. The question is whether I can find my car. My car might be covered in ice. Let's see. So, anyway, you know how this goes. I will see you all tomorrow. And keep your eyes on the stars. Thank you for joining me today, by the way. Ghost Hand, Brent, and Donald. I appreciate having you all here. And I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.